So we're going to do a real quick e-commerce 30,000 foot view. Look at the e-commerce ecosystem, briefly cover what's going on within e-commerce, marketplaces, search, comparison shopping, emerging channel. So when we look at e-commerce, it's a little bit cut off at the top, I apologize about that, but when we look at e-commerce from 2009 to 2014, and this is global GMV. So when we're looking at last year, as far as 2009, we can see that we have ROW, which is the rest of the world, including Asia Pac, Australia. We have European Union and US. So this is billions of dollars. This is billions of GMV. And this is across all channels, both marketplaces as well as websites. So what we're seeing here is a trend of growth, which we would expect. And we expect to see this especially in the rest of the world as broadband penetration continues to increase in countries, not only Australia, but we see huge broadband penetration in places like South Korea and the rest of like Hong Kong and China as well. So it's interesting to look at when we talk today about international opportunities to really start to take a look outside of our comfort zone here in Australia and look at the opportunities abroad. It's very easy for us, and especially myself as an American, to just talk about what's going on in America, to just talk about what's going on in Europe. However, it's very important for us to focus on what's happening here in Australasia. Another thing that's interesting to look at here in Australia is identifying, where the money is being spent online. So there's an awful lot of both good and bad press that I've seen since I've been in Australia talking about the amount of spend that is going offshores. And a lot of this is due to really robust sites that are very mature, both out of the US and the UK. So sites like Amazon, Buy.com out of the US, which are really getting a hell of a lot of traction from Australian buyers. Not so much because of cost, but because of the fact that it's so easy in the US to be able to ship items to Australia at a low cost and quickly. And secondly, the diversity of products that are available online. So certainly within Australia, we're seeing more diversity as far as the amount of products that are being sold. However, it's just not as mature as we know, but it's getting there. So in 2003, 43% of the $23 billion spent online in Australia was done on overseas website. A majority of that, obviously, on the likes of Amazon. E-commerce growth in Australia is up 8.5% this year, expected to be up to 9.5% in 2011, and up to 10% of growth in 2012. The average spend, so the note just below that is interesting to see as well. So the individual per person per country spend online is actually significantly close between Australia and the US. So this is in US dollars, of course, but there's really not a huge gap there, which to me signals a hell of a lot of opportunity here in Australia. So it's a really exciting time for all of us here in the room, hopefully. And then as we look at the UK, the spend is $622 US per person on average. So obviously a lot of potential for growth there, but I think based on the projections that ChannelAdvisor has, is that Australia will soon be overtaking US spend, probably in the next year or two for sure. And then obviously Christmas sales expected to start even earlier. Last year we tracked really the peak starting season for Christmas sales actually started right around the second week of October, which was 2 whole weeks earlier than we tracked it the year before. So that's where we start seeing GMV really start to peak and take off quite aggressively. This is interesting to track as well. This is just ChannelAdvisor data. So as I mentioned, we're able to track data globally from various customers across various channels. So if we look all the way back at 2000, the average person that's coming to buy your products would typically go to a URL that they're familiar with. So they'd go to apple.com, or they'd go to ebay.com or amazon.com. And what we've seen over the time is that less and less people are actually going directly to the URL. This is for a lot of reasons. Obviously there's a lot more websites out there now. There's a lot more offering on hand than there was back in 2000. But also, there's a lot more savvy shoppers online. People are becoming smarter and smarter. They're looking for a bargain. They're looking to do a lot of price comparative shopping, and they're doing that not only on the marketplaces, which is, as you've seen, since 2000 has grown, but over the last couple of years has been fairly stagnant. The piece of the pie is growing slowly and still kind of chipping away at the direct URL traffic, and we also see search being fairly flat as well. But the interesting part is right on top here in 2009, this is the first year we've actually really been able to track where actually track sales coming from not only social, but also mobile enabled sites. So we're starting to track that even within our customers. Almost 7% of traffic now is coming from those two. And this is just within our customer base. Of note as well is the 13%, which is comparison shopping. So that's remained fairly flat as well. However, it's a very important piece of the puzzle. So marketplaces. So I know I'm kind of running out of time here, so I'll go through this quickly. When we look at the landscape as far as Australia, we see that from a marketplace landscape, eBay obviously has a very huge lion share as a percentage. We also have Amazon.com. So this is Amazon combined. So there's a lot of sellers that will actually, from Australia, actually buy from Amazon, Germany, France, or the UK as well. But this huge piece of pie here is Amazon itself. We see Australasian, Grays Online, Trading Post, and Deals Direct. So Trading Post obviously being the less than 1% kind of sliver that you can't see next to the purple one. Deals Direct, Grays, and Australasian. So it'll be interesting to see how these different marketplaces evolve. Obviously, what we see in the US, what happens quite often, which happened with Australasian, I believe earlier this year, is they get acquired. So comparison shopping, so we're seeing numbers as high as 40% in our customer base. 40% of their GMV is actually, and monthly revenue is actually coming from comparison shopping. On average, though, it's around 10 to 15%. So for those of you that have dabbled in comparison shopping in the past, or are maybe just dipping your toe in the water right now, there's definitely a big opportunity here. Again, 55% of people that are shopping online, we find, and this is a Forrester research, 55% are actually influenced in one way or another by a comparison shopping engine. And real quick, comparison shopping engine trends. I know I'm going over by a couple minutes here, but this is important. We're seeing fragmentation across the top 4 main comparison shopping sites here in Australia. So the main 4 sites that we recognize, not only because of volume, but because of the amount of retailers that they have online, is MyShopping.com, ShopBot, Shopping.com, and GetPrice. The numbers here that I wanted to point out are interesting. So we're seeing a lot of change in which the comparison shopping sites are actually getting traffic to their sites. Traditionally in the past, it's been that comparison shopping sites will simply create ad spend that they're going to spend on Yahoo and Google, and go out and aggressively manage those campaigns. And we still see that quite a bit with ShopBot and MyShopping.com. So essentially, they're taking the cost per click that you're paying to them and essentially passing that on to Google and Yahoo as far as ad spend. But Shopping.com and GetPrice over the last couple of years have done some really interesting things, which we've seen in other countries as well, is becoming more social. So they actually have a lot of great links in there to Facebook pages, really engaging the customer. They have a lot of reviews now. GetPrice does a really good job at this. Their 5-star rating, where you can actually go on and rate the product that you've purchased. And so because of that, we've seen that over the last year, actually GetPrice, as an example, has had 11% decrease in traffic. And when you look at that number, you probably say, well, actually, GetPrice is doing something wrong. Actually, I think GetPrice is doing something very right. The traffic that they were getting before, in 2008, 2009, was historically coming from paid search clicks. So now what GetPrice has been able to do is kind of turn the card around and say, actually, we don't have to just simply rely on our affiliate networks and our paid search campaigns. Let's actually start relying on social networking, on having good reviews, good customer experience, and better product offering. So both Shopping.com and GetPrice have been able to do that, whereas ShopBot and MyShopping.com has actually spent aggressively more on Google AdWords in particular.